What is up, gamers? Stevie G here from Pickpocket Press, and today I'm going to do a video on exploration and travel rules. So there is a ton of ways that you can do your travel. I mean, you know, the most time-honored GM tradition would probably be, I think, to skip it. You know, your players start in the tavern, they decide they're going to go on a particular adventure, and you skip to the adventure. You don't even do any traveling at all. That's perfectly fine, perfectly good way to do it, especially if you're short on time or, you know, it's a very large adventure and you've only got a certain number of hours for your session. Then you just want to get to that adventure as soon as possible, throw them in it, and off you go. And that is exactly what I will be doing in my Roll20 games, most likely, to start in January. But assuming you don't want to do that, you might try random encounters. Random encounters are an awesome tool for the GM, and I think they genuinely benefit every RPG session, at least all the different RPGs that I've played. And the reason for that, the underlying reason probably is that the GM gets to be as surprised as the players about what happens next. So, I mean, the GM has to make up the random encounter table, so they're not completely surprised, but, you know, in terms of what happens at the table, the GM gets to live it with the PCs, you know, in real time as they all find out together.
It's the middle of the night. What are you talking about?
Come on, I got a surprise for you. Come on, hurry up. Gotta get out of here.
You're tugging me too
I got a
hard.
surprise for you, Morty.
For a good random encounter table, I think you need a number of things, and it's not just a list of monster names and how many are there, you know, not the old style wandering monster table, which are serviceable, don't get me wrong, but for a good random encounter table, I think you need a number of monsters. So you do want some fighty monsters, you want some bestial, unintelligent monsters that can't be reasoned with, but on the other, you also want some creatures that, you know, might negotiate or trade or threaten or cajole the party in some way, because social is fun too, right?
You lived your life for the king. You're gonna die for some chickens.
Someone is.
So we want those guys in there. The potential for those guys to be in there. And you also, you know, it's really important. You want not just creatures, you want some cool locations in your random encounter table. So, you know, the party's strolling along the mountains and they see some ancient ruin, you know, bits and pieces falling down. You know, they might want to go and explore that. Or, yeah, you're in the forest and there's some sacred grove. It's a secret place which, you know, men have not stepped foot in for hundreds of years. You know, you want that stuff in there because you want the party to go, oh, yeah, man, look what we've discovered. And go off and, you know, have a good time in there. But no, genuinely, you know, it's that sense of discovery and little side treks. You know, don't be afraid. If the party wants to go explore that ruin or that, you know, strange valley with the music coming from it, you know, let them do that. That's the major advantage of an RPG, is the limitless flexibility of the GM and the players together. And some events. It's always cool to sprinkle in a few little events in the table as potentials as the party travel along. So, you know, weather events are always really good options. You know, thunderstorm rolls in, or the mist, you know, starts seeping into the forest. What else? I mean, you know, a rock slide, something like that. Either it blocks the passage, or you know, rocks are falling on the PCs and they need to take action to avoid it. Or, you know, if the PCs are, you know, about to head into a village, you know, maybe there's some dead animals around. It's very strange, and it turns out that there's a plague or some kind of pestilence has come through recently. So that's something now that the players are going to have to deal with as well. So just little bits and pieces like that. They're not monsters and they're not locations, but they are these other extra events that are happening that are interesting and that the PCs can interact with. And for the love of the gaming gods, please do not balance your random encounter tables with your party. You want it to feel like, you want the world to feel like it's a dangerous place, and it will be. You do not scale for your party. And look, there's an easy way to do that. If your favorite game in the moment does not have a formal and transparent party retreat type rule that lets the PCs get out of a bad situation at a cost with certain checks, If your game doesn't have that, add it into your game, because it opens everything up. The GM can do all sorts of things, can throw things at you that make sense in the world, instead of scaling all the encounters to match to give the party a fair chance of defeating them. So yeah, please do not balance your random encounter table for the party. Instead, just make it cool, make it interesting, make it dangerous, and you can fall back on other rules to keep the party alive. You know, if you want to. So LFG Deluxe has introduced a more fulsome exploration framework for those GMs that are interested in fleshing out this bit of the game a little bit more. It basically comes in 3 parts. So the first part is weather, your starting weather and any change in the weather as the travel goes on. The second part is the PCs deciding which route they're going to take, and that will impact on things like the terrain that they're traveling through, which will affect movement rates, but also the kinds of creatures that they might encounter. So, you know, if you're going to go through the forest, that's going to have different creatures than if you go through the mountain pass or if you go along the river. So those sorts of decisions that the players need to bear in mind. And lastly, we have what's called the main part, is the travel events table. So that there are 4 tables. There's one for overland, one for underground, one for lakes, rivers, sea travel, so voyages, and one for that time when you finally get hold of that flying airship. We have a flight table. Okay, so there's way too many entries for me to go through them all. What I will do instead is we'll just do a little run through with some dice. So let's say that we've got a party who are in Crow's Keep on the Midlands map in that main hex, and they are heading down towards the Forest of Drilnor for some adventure down there. Anyways, so we'll say they're in the next day. They're just entering the next hex down, and we will roll to see what the weather is. So it's a D8, number 1. Alright, so number 1 is hot and sunny. Perfectly nice weather, nothing to worry about. Maybe it's a little hot. If there's a lot of running that has to go on, that might cause some troubles, but otherwise, no problems there. So the party chooses their route, and they're not going to go via the river. They're going to go through the plains, maybe keeping to the edge of the cliffs. And we'll say if they keep to the cliffs, you know, their travel speed might be reduced a little bit, but they think they're safer there than in the middle, where they know there are a lot of Scorn man-eating beastmen running around. Alright, so overland travel 3. That is a random encounter. Wouldn't you know it? It's a random encounter. So I've got to go to the random encounter table. So just hang on 1 second while I bring that up. Right, planes, got it. Page 151. So D20, 16. And that's over the page, of course. A warband of 48 ogres are clashing with 5d10 mounted barbarians or Scorn. Let's find out. It's Scorn. So there are Scorn and ogres clashing along this side of the cliffs from some prior beef that they've got with each other. And so the party needs to decide, you know, are they going to sneak around them? Are they going to let them fight it out and maybe kill off whoever's left? All sorts of things that could happen as a result of that. It's really an event. It's not really an encounter with the monsters necessarily, so the players can decide what they want to do. And then basically we move on to the next day. Okay, day 2, the party decides to keep going along the cliffs because they think it gives them more options in terms of going up or down or around, whatever they might encounter. And let's see what happens with the weather. We'll do that first. That is a D12. I've only got a little D12, I'm afraid, not a large one. Number 2, which is warmer. Ooh, so it was already hot. It was already hot to begin with. We rolled hot and sunny, and it's gotten warmer. So it's actually getting pretty damn muggy now. And, you know, the flow-on effect of that might be that any kind of athletics or endurance-related checks for this day are going to be at, say, -2 penalty. So, all right, everyone's slogging it along, you know, very sweaty. Everyone's feeling really sweaty now. All right, and overland events table, 15. So 15 is random encounter. No, we're not doing that. We're going to roll something else on this table. 17. Unfortunate injury. Ooh. So random NPC hireling, henchman, or other NPC or animal possibly falls ill, lame, or is otherwise injured, not including ranger pets. A party challenge focusing on int, charisma, will, apothecary, and or animal lore allows the injury to be managed before any lasting harm occurs. If unsuccessful, the NPC or animal is unable to continue under their own power. So look, one of the, maybe, we didn't say whether our guys are on horseback or not. Let's say they're not, but they've got some hunting dogs or something with them. One of the dogs has injured its leg, can no longer, make some checks, see whether the dog pulls through. Assuming the dog pulls through, the ranger guy or barbarian or something is carrying the dog part of the way, or maybe on a sled, something like that. What are you going to do for your dogs? All right, day 3. So now the party is really, so they've gone 8, 16. They're starting to come out of that hex and moving into the next one. They're still hugging the cliff, so they're now moving into some forested area and traveling through there. So let's see what happens with the weather. I think it is a D12. Let me double check. Yes, it is. 1. Much hotter again. So it's a heat wave now. It's been 3 days of heat, and it's getting hotter and hotter each time. So we'll say, maybe athletics checks are disadvantaged now. So it's getting seriously hot, and everyone's sick of the sun and wants it to go away. All right, overland encounter. 20. Woo woo! So that is actually perfect campsite. The party has a chance to locate the perfect campsite, providing comfort and safety in equal measure. So they make some checks, and if they're successful, all PCs restore 1 lost attribute point, 1 reroll die, or 1 point of luck, once per adventure only. So just perfect timing and luck and player skills, and they somehow make their way to the perfect campsite within this forest, which enables them to restore a few bits and pieces. Okay, let's do one more. So day 4. First of all, what does the weather do? It's D12. 1. Oh my god, I think that is much hotter again. So no, they're in the forest. It's the weather is feral. It's really, really hot, so it's disadvantaged on all those endurance type checks. The forest is humid and sweaty. Everyone has had enough of it. That's the way it crumbles with the shifting weather table sometimes. And encounters number 2, which is off course. Ooh. So the party's straight off of their intended course, if possible, otherwise ignore or reroll this result. Okay, so somehow they wind away from the trees, I guess, confuse them, they lose track of the edge of the cliffs, and they end up wandering off into the forest proper. And so that leads to some more rolls as the adventurers try to either retrace their steps and lose a day's travel, or alternatively, they might end up in a random location, and so they don't really know where they are. Okay, day 5, last one, I promise. So the party spent the last day retracing their steps, finding their way back to the cliffs, and so let's see what happens. Number 1 for weather shifting again. Are you joking me? So it's just really, 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 really hot. And yep, so definitely disadvantage on those endurance-related athletics checks. And maybe, if there's combat that has to go on, if it goes beyond, 5 rounds or something, the players start suffering extra penalties. Well, everybody starts suffering extra penalties, and that may affect how they interact with other creatures that they find, because everyone's, suffering from this heat wave that's going on. All right, and encounter 18. Don't think we've rolled any low ones, but anyways, 18 is taxing terrain. Difficult and unexpected terrain impedes the explorer's path. River crossing, forest fire, boom. Yep, it's been so hot, a forest fire sweeps through this part of the forest. So progress is slow, might need a party challenge, so they need to make some checks, and all up, if they fail, they lose a point of strength, and a random PC uses up a relevant piece of gear. Yeah, so maybe this forest fire, wildfire breaks out, runs through here. They will make some checks. They probably end up climbing down the side of the cliff to get away from the fire. That's all well and good, but they lose a piece of gear in the meantime and a point of strength from exhaustion if they fail the checks. Yeah, so anyway, cool. So that is 5 days of quick random encounter generation using the LFG exploration rules and tables. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it all made sense, and I will be back very soon with another video. Cheers!